Hi, this is my video presentation of my internship at Smith Debnam. I would like to start out by informing everyone that actually when I took this class, when the class actually started, I actually received notification from Smith Debnam that they wanted me to come and take on the responsibility of their recovery supervisor. They did have a 90-day probationary period, and that period is what I used as my internship with Smith Debnam. Smith Debnam allowed me to step into a leadership role during my probationary period and immediately making a meaningful impact. Even though I thought years of experience from a large institution would help me and make the transition a lot easier, I found that smaller companies and law firms operate a lot differently than the larger banks that I had been accustomed to. I've been accustomed to HR departments that were more in line with a structured environment, whereas in a small institution such as Smith Debnam, I had to get used to the fact that they operated very differently. They allowed certain things that we wouldn't allow in a big organization under a big structure. They had a lot more flexibility, and that was something that I had to really wrap my head around. I'm again used to that very structured environment, but I did find that their approach to flexibility allowed their team members, or my team members who now report up to me, the ability to navigate life and have life events happen, and then they weren't just terminated based off the fact of their attendance. Um, my goal was simple. I was there to help the team perform at their best, learn the firm's culture and contribute any way I could. Today, I'll walk through the responsibilities I took on, challenges I overcame, and the success that followed, including helping the department achieve the firm's strongest month ever in September. I have a slide presentation, so this would be actually slide number 3. I'm still trying to navigate through technology and figure out how to do that. But I did want to mention that my main role was to maintain an internal coaching log for clients, audits, and create a scorecard centered on each client's expectation. Smith Debnam has over 10 clients that they serve, so these are major banks that they service. Basically, once a account goes into a legal capacity, then Smith Debnam would pick that up and follow the process for ensuring that the clients receive recovery on debts that are actually owed to them. The first thing I did was I conducted side by sides and remote monitoring to support both the compliance and quality efforts. I also led weekly huddles and guide the team discussions to keep everyone aligned with our goals. The Before I came to Smith Debnam, they didn't have huddles. I felt that huddles, from my experience over the years, are extremely important. They set the tone for the week. They set the tone for the day. They are encouraging. They also distribute out information that may have changed and make sure that everyone is on the same page. We also went over scenarios where calls that I actually monitored, or people that I actually sat with, and try to come up with ways that we can improve the process, productivity, and quality all at the same time. As I grew into the position, I took over several of my manager's auditing responsibilities, freeing him to focus on high level strategies. I become the main resource for a team that the team relies on when they need clarification, support, or coaching, and connections that has been a key reason why we've continued to meet and exceed our goals. The manager that I actually report up to before I joined the firm hadn't had a supervisor in over 2 years, so he was pulling both strings. He was the manager, which really deals a lot with the clients and setting expectations for the clients, also reviewing audits from the clients, and actually looking at bringing on new new clients onto our platform. So there was a lot of work done in that, but in that absence of a supervisor or a manager for the team, there was no team focus. There was no manager focus on quality and controls around processes and how to improve processes. So that's where I came in, and I was offering him the ability to do more of what his job title was to encompass him to do, rather than managing the people. I would do the day-to-day management of the operation for the recovery group. During my probationary period, I focused on building relationships, both internal partners and external partners. I scheduled weekly and monthly check-ins with the team members to create a consistency and transparency. So in actually learning the culture that the smaller firms have, I found that it's imperative that you develop relationships, especially those internal relationships, because sometimes in those positions, there's only one person. In a large company, if you have an HR department, such as Wells Fargo, which is where I came from as a vice president for retail card servicing and auditing, they have a huge HR department. I mean, it's humongous, and it's in different sites, and each group handles different things. So recruiting had its own group, training has its own group. All those things fell under the umbrella of HR. Whereas in this particular firm at Smith Debnam, where I did my internship at, they only had 2 HR people. And so I found myself sometimes getting a little frustrated, and needed to go back and rebuild those relationships, because my expectations were what I was used to, right? So I was used to, quick responses, getting things fixed really fast. And I really had to take a step back and realize that, hey, look, there's only 2 people in that particular department that's handling all the entire firm's requests. And so sometimes it will be a few days before they can actually come back and give you an answer on the issue that you're having. And so that is what I mean by building those internal relationships. I went back, I talked to Catherine, I talked to Mackenzie, who's her assistant, and we sat down, made game plans, and we have meetings now that check in to make sure that because my team is the largest group in the entire firm, as far as employees. So we always had these check-ins to make sure that all our employees are on the right path, career path, attendance path, whatever it is. We sit down and have those conversations so that we can so that I can best manage the people that work for me. I work closely with the leadership, understanding the firm's expectations. So the firm has several departments. Like I said, even though there may be 1 or 2 people in that whole department that makes that up, such as compliance, judgments, post-judgments, they just have a lot of different leadership in each one of those groups, and each one of those leaderships have different expectations. So I had to make sure that what I was giving to my team aligned with their expectations, so we can all work cohesively as one team. So that took a lot of work, and we're still in the process of doing it. I think that it will not get to a familiar or comfortable place until about at least a year, but we're definitely headed in the right direction. We have leadership meetings I'm a part of. There are L10 meetings that happen every week on Tuesday, and then I've been brought in here recently on the client meetings that my manager have with the different clients that we have, because initially I was not a part of those because my focus was on training, and now that has been completed, we're now trying to roll me into in that leadership position and being able to communicate throughout the firm. Very easy on, I proved that I could be trusted and with sensitive situations, especially attendance issues and performance and HR related issues. Sometimes that is a concern whenever you bring on a new leader. Hey, these are real sensitive issues. You don't want them out there in the public domain. And so I early on earned the respect of not only just my manager, but also the people that work for me. who understands that I understand what it means to be confidential with their information, especially if they're on any type of probationary period. Like right now, we have one person on a PIP, which is a performance improvement program, and I make sure that it's not out there in the public domain unless she wants it to be. You can't control that, the scuttlebutt, but I do offer her feedback and let her know that, this is her performance improvement program and it does not belong to anyone else. And I encourage her to really keep those things, very private between her and I. And in that process of her being on that PIP, I have to meet with her at least once a week. Every Wednesday we have a meeting. And I move those meetings locations around and different times just so there be no speculation from other team members as to it being something consistent that happened at the same time the same day of the week in the same place. That may trigger some folks to make some assumptions that I didn't want to have to deal with them making. Professional challenges. The biggest challenge was the transition from being a senior leader in a large organization into being a hands-on, smaller, more personal environment. I had to remind myself that what works in a big institution may not work in transition here, and that adapting would be one of my greatest assets. So, yeah, I was a senior vice president for Wells Fargo, and I had the ability to make decisions and be the last person in the room to make very big decisions as to where the company was actually going. I actually took this role because I did want to take a step down from all that type of responsibility. I mean, there was a reorganization that caused me to leave Wells Fargo, but when I was looking for my next opportunity, I said, to myself, I don't want all that. I'm getting older. I have different values. As you grow in your career, you will find that values will change. And so before, my values were being successful, reaching big goals at the companies that I work for, reorganizing things, leading large groups, and being impactful in everyone's day-to-day life. And so that cost, but at the cost for that is no time. Your family time will suffer. Your relationships personally will suffer. I traveled a lot, and so I was never in one place a long time. And I'm married, been married for more than 15 years, been together 25, and so it will make even those relationships difficult. And I now have a grandson, and all that stuff just came up to where your values are right now. And so in looking for my next opportunity, I wanted to scale it back. I didn't realize what that meant and how that was going to be challenging, because I was just so used to saying, hey, this is what we're going to do, and that's what we did. And in this environment, I have to learn how to negotiate and not come off as all-knowing and disrespectful, because those things could happen. I had to take a few times, as I look back over this internship / probationary period, I go back and I think to myself, yeah, I had to go back a couple times and apologize and let people know exactly why I came across that way. But at the end of the day, that is not my role. And I had to learn how to be comfortable in the role that I have now, and still be effective. Because there's been times in this internship I didn't feel like I was effective because I didn't have the right assets or credentials or responsibilities that were attached to my position that allowed me to make changes when I felt like the changes were needed. So it was definitely a struggle for me. There was a couple of times I didn't know if it was going to be a good fit, because some of the recommendations that I made, I felt that they were genuine. I felt that they were needed, and that we needed to move forward with those. But I then learned that, hey, that is not my focus, and and I had to learn to scale that back. I also focused on developing a credible, through humility, consistency, and follow through. I made it a point to accept feedback without taking it personally, which helped me grow faster with this particular group. Understanding and embracing the concept of napalm is my favorite concept, and it just stands for not all people are like me, allowing me to lead with more empathy, patience, and self-awareness. These challenges ultimately made me a stronger and more effective leader. So I do think that it's actually added to my leadership. Training and observation. I started my training exactly where the team starts at, traditional collections, team onboarding. I wanted to understand the work with the same that the team members do every day. I wanted to understand what their life was, how they handle their position. As my training advanced, I completed client-specific sessions, shadowing live calls, working with peers and post-judgment and judgments in their processes. I also engaged in the daily training with my manager to understand the leadership expectations, auditing and standards, and the client requirements. These trainings allow me to take over several auditing duties and eventually to lead the collection team during a high volume days. My involvement helped build trust because the team saw that I am willing to work alongside with them. So there's been a lot of days where we were short staffed, and right after I finished my collection training, I would then go in and just help the team members, and they really appreciated that. I also did coaching memos. One of my first major accomplishments was creating a coaching memo framework. I standardized how the coaching document was administered, added screenshots for clarification, and tied it in with the feedback specifically to the SOP that we have, which is where we house all our processes. So if there was actually a coaching on a person not following those processes, I would also add a screenshot to their coaching memo to help them physically see exactly where the issue was at. This framework improved accountability, transparency, and overall performance. It also gave agents a clear roadmap for success and aligned perfectly with the expectations of our clients like Discovery and Capital One. The team responded positively because the process felt supportive, not punitive, and consistent with a servant leader approach. I've always been. I remember early on in my career, one of the CEOs of Wells Fargo said in a meeting that, people are so afraid to make a mistake because they feel like they're going to be punished for that mistake that they made. And without mistakes, you cannot really make huge changes in the industry. People won't feel like that they can try different things. And so my approach has always been from a coaching standpoint and a move forward environment so that it allows people to make those mistakes. One of the things I told the leadership group when I took on this position is that I will make mistakes. Yes, I'm gonna make them because in order for me to really look at how I can improve something, I may go left and it turns out to be just the wrong road to take, and we'll just back up and reroute and go another way. But there will be some of that along the way. If you want to improve processes, improve your work environment, that's a necessity of that. And they really appreciated my honesty when I was discussing that with them when I was doing my interview process for this internship / 90-day probationary period. The HR, from early on, I partner with our HR partners to handle attendance and inconsistency in performance issues and policies. This is on my slide 9. I made sure that the documentation was clear, objective, and compliant. with strength and trust between myself and HR and the leadership. This collaboration helps set the tone for a positive work relationship I have now with the firm. I always tell any manager, any leader, anyone that's new to such a leadership position, the first thing you really need to learn when you become a leader, you have to understand the HR policies. And I say that only to say that that's where the people are. That's how you take care of the people that work for your company. And if you want to be a people leader, you must understand and respect the HR perspective of how to administer corrective action, how to administer positive feedback, how to, if you have team members that have, outside workplace issues, how to handle that and how to support them in that. Because that is the reason why most people stay at the workplace that they're at, is because they feel supported in their job outside and inside of work. For my leadership growth, which is on my slide 10, I actually grown a lot in this position. I learned that quitting was not an option for me. And once I understood that I was going to make that choice, leaving the firm was not going to be an option for me. It strengthened my confidence, and it strengthened the leadership group and their confidence in me. I learned how to adjust my leadership style to a smaller and more personal environment, which while maintaining a professional and organized structure. So giving up that working for that huge organization where you have so many other groups that will support you, to understanding and working in a smaller leadership group and being able to still be effective and professional. I developed a strong emotional intelligence, better communication habits, and a deeper appreciation of how a team functions when they feel supported. When you work for large organizations, yes, there will be times where even I felt, as an executive, I cannot even imagine what other folks may have felt. But as I grew up, as I went up the ladder at each one of these institutions that I worked for, you can become a number real easy. I mean, the first thing they ask you when you call support or another group, what is your SID number? And you're just like, not even my name, right? Whereas with this company, it was your name. Everybody knows my name now, and there's no number that referenced me at all. So that was definitely a change, because it wasn't until I did make it to the executive level that people really started, focusing on my name, who I am, and understanding who I am. My manager recently told me that he was extremely impressed with my performance, and that he can't wait to see what we achieve in the upcoming year. Something that validates everything that I committed myself to during this internship. In reflection, by the midpoint of the internship, I was already exceeding expectations. I had taken ownership of a lot of processes, help improve team performance, and build a strong relationship with peers and leadership. My success throughout the probationary period showed that I was not only capable, but also an asset to the department, with September numbers becoming the highest numbers that they have for the firm in their entire history. And that just came from really focusing on team members and the quality and accountability. I think that was reflective in the month of September, again, which was their highest month that they had. On slide 14, I know I'm going to jump a little bit, but I really wanted to really focus and get to the conclusion of my internship at Smith Debnam. Has been one of the most meaningful professional experiences I've ever had the opportunity to lead, grow, and to contribute in a way that exceeds my own expectations. I have grown to be a successful person in this particular firm by going back to what made me go up the ladder so fast at these large institutions, I learned, I stopped, I listened, and I think that is the thing that I'm learning mostly in this position, and which is a part of my growth now, is to not only be a leader, but sometimes falling into that follower category is not a bad thing. It's a necessity if you want to be successful. And so now sometimes I find myself okay with being that follower. I'm proud of the work I've done, the relationships I've built, and the direction the team is now heading. Thank you for taking the time to hear my journey and accomplishments that came from it. Thank you so much. Bye.